Hello and welcome to another edition of the Dynasty Fantasy Football Central podcast. I'm Michael Moore. He's Jonathan Scott, who just took a swig. Say hello, Jonathan.
Hey everybody! Why you gotta call me out? By the way,
They saw it. They saw it ahead of time. It doesn't matter. All right. So I think with this one, Jonathan, we're going to resume our Dynasty rookie mock draft. But first, you wanted to pontificate on the Andy Dalton contract extension. So I am going to let you do that. Just please do not take up the entire show.
thanks. Oh, I hate when you put limits on it. Not that I wanted to. I feel like it's necessary. It's a starting quarterback who a team made a commitment to, smart or not. So you hear the number 115 thrown around. It's not that. You finally got the real numbers. It's really 3 for 35. It's sort of he got Kaepernicked, as they say now. I don't know if you follow Twitter or not. And some of the like ESPN and CNN, SI have those agents turned media people. And there's actually a term agents are using within the industry now, saying "Don't Kaepernick me" going into negotiations. He got screwed. But so did Dalton, apparently. Like, it's a 3-year 35 and then a pay-as-you-go kind of thing. And the only thing to know that Dalton is not going anywhere for 3 years. A.J. Green's not going anywhere. Bernard's still be on his rookie contract. As bad as Dalton may be in real life, and he's not going to win a Super Bowl and he won't be great, he's a good, I would say great quarterback 2, bad quarterback 1, depending on your league, who's going to put up 30 touchdowns and 20 picks a year. For the next 3 years, he's not going anywhere, injury withstanding. So if I'm off base there, correct me, but I think that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. I think the best you can hope for with him, like you said, is probably low-end quarterback 1. And look, if you're in a 2-quarterback league and he's your second quarterback, you could probably do worse than that. I think if you were stronger at some of the other positions, I think you could do worse than that. So
totally agree, and I know it's. Like, I'm trying to be excited for Andy Dalton and the Bengals. It's really hard because I think Dalton sucks. But good for him. Dude's getting paid. The Bengals are stable. Good for everyone involved.
that is one thing if they are nothing else is stable. So I will grant them that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we got that out of the way. Let's review, shall we, round 1 of our mock draft. 1 was Sammy Watkins, not much of a surprise there. 2, Mike Evans, not much of a surprise there. Brandon Cooks went 3. Eric Ebron went 4. Jonathan reached for Marquise Lee at 5. George Matthews went 6. Bishop Sankey went 7, which, just if you're scoring at home, that will not happen in your Dynasty draft. I'm just going to tell you right now. Carlos Hyde went 8. Another thing that probably won't happen in your fantasy drafts at home, Odell Beckham went 9, Kelvin Benjamin went 10, Jeremy Hill went 11, and Devontae Freeman went 12. So pretty much all running backs and receivers with a tight end sprinkled in just for fun. So with all that said, Jonathan, you have the first pick still. You are on the clock.
All right, and just to say now, if we do this now, we probably put Hyde and Stanky a little bit higher now, probably, right?
Yeah, we won't go back and revise, but yes, that's probably a fair statement. Yeah.
Good for the people. They look good, and I wouldn't mind seeing them a little bit higher in most drafts. But okay, so with the first pick in the second round, and I'm gonna mess this up, and I apologize. Let me look at his name. I'm going to look up exactly right so people know I'm not dumb. Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Got it. I literally just type down ASJ every time we're in communication with anybody, and everyone knows what I'm talking about, so I don't have to say his name. But I think so. I love this guy a lot in the way I love Marquise Lee, and you're going to see me sort of gravitate towards people like this, so that he was a prized recruit out of high school, went to a top-tier D1 school, put up huge numbers his first 2 years, took on physical things that maybe held them back for a year, and dropped in the draft. So Marquise Lee, the same thing, and then ASJ, same thing here. He lit the world on fire. They were talking about him as a top 10 pick if he would have been out as a sophomore. Had to wait a year because of rules, and God bless rules. And then put on about 20 pounds in the offseason and played at a heavier weight for Washington. Played almost around 265, 270, which took away a lot of his athleticism. Which is what made him special. He's 6'6", They want him to get around 255, 260, I think, maybe even a little bit lower than that. He can get there. It'll take a little bit of time. But this is another guy who you talk about a catching radius, who was explosive against linebackers between the numbers, and who catches a lot. He's got really good hands for a rookie tight end. If Mike Evans doesn't come along as quickly as everyone thinks he will, the person that will benefit the most from that, I think, is him.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think he's squarely the number 2 tight end prospect. I think we can agree on that amongst this year's class. Yeah, and like you said, he just had an abysmal season last year at Washington, but that probably wasn't all his fault. They had really bad quarterback play last year, which really affected him. And he still won, I think, the John Mackey Award as the country's best tight end. So, what I've seen, and don't take me literally, but they've said he's got some skill set like Gronkowski, which they're not anointing him the next Gronkowski, but look, anytime you mention someone that has the same attributes as him without getting injured all the time, maybe, I think that's probably a good thing. So, yeah, I agree. I think Tampa, and we've talked about this before, is just building a pretty good team, and to be the starting tight end on a pretty good passing offense is always a good thing. So, yeah, I wouldn't have a problem. I think with that, I'm good with all that. So, all right. So for my pick, I had a last-minute change of heart, I think. So get ready. I'm gonna go Davante Adams with this pick. Yeah, I mean, I was struggling. And you and I talked about this before between probably Amaro there and Adams, but a couple things about Adams that I really like. He's in Green Bay, obviously. A good offense, good passing offense. Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere. Right now, he's probably the 4th option, but I think that's worst case scenario, quite honestly. I think they just locked up Jordy Nelson, so he's probably going to man one of the outside spots for the next 2 or 3 years, but after that, they've got Randall Cobb and they've got Jared Boykin, which even as I think recently as yesterday, they were saying that Randall Cobb looks downright pedestrian in training camp so far. Now, it's early. It is super early, but that sort of, I think, gives some glimmer of hope for a guy like Adams, who may not be the starter this year and may not, make an impression this year. But I think when you're in the second round of rookie mock drafts, I think getting a guy like Adams that could potentially be very good is a good value there. So I would probably go Adams with that pick.
Yeah, the Adams thing is interesting. Like I appreciate the hard-hitting analysis that Rodgers isn't going anywhere because people, whispers in the offseason and all that. But I wonder, I could see this kid getting snaps early because of the Cobb issue, coming back from a broken leg, and also that tight end situation is not settling itself at all.
I don't know. I've got all my eggs in the Brandon Bostic basket, so we'll reserve judgment on that one yet.
I don't even think his wife/significant other has all their eggs in the Brandon Bostic basket. So kudos to you, sir.
Low.
I find it interesting. I can see them going to way more 2 tight end sets, but having 2 inline blocking tight ends and having 3 wide constantly. And Davante Adams playing the Jermichael Finley role of just a big target in the middle of the field because he's a big dude. He's a big guy who is sort of a safety blanket for Aaron Rodgers. I know it sort of deviates from what he did in college. He was a guy on the outside who ran and stayed outside the lines, and that's fine. But he's not taking over what they already have there. He'll get in where he fits in, and so I kind of like him, especially long term. I think he's a huge fit there. But even immediately, now that tight end situation isn't settling itself, I don't mind that at all. You could see some immediate returns there and be pretty happy with that.
Continue.
All right. Well, I assumed you were going tight end, so when you didn't, you kind of took my pick. Thanks.
I know. It's about disruption.
I'm aware. Thanks.
It's about the chaos.
Man, honestly, at this point, and this is more of a long-term pick, but again, I love the upside, is I would go with Cody Latimer. The Broncos.
I don't think that's all long-term at all, quite honestly.
That's the other interesting thing here. Everything out of camp has said that he is glowingly good, and all those rough edges people were worried about coming out of the draft are basically just taken away because of Peyton Manning. Like the Peyton Manning bump for receivers is extending itself now to rookies that played at Indiana who haven't discovered offensive football yet in the 21st century. And this kid is a physical freak. He is an absolute beast of a man. So to put essentially what's another Demaryius Thomas on the outside to take that other wide receiver 2 role in that team, man, I could see him having maybe not the most consistent days throughout the year, but if they get a matchup they like I remember last year with Peyton Manning just picking on Marcus Cooper over and over and over again with the Chiefs. Didn't matter where Marcus Cooper went, whoever Marcus Cooper was guarding, that's who they just torched. And he's going to see a lot of that kind of coverage. He can have days where he just goes off for like 5 for 180 kind of thing, of big, big plays. So, and after, if they sign Demaryius Thomas, I assume they will, but if they don't, you're looking at the number 1 guy. But the worst case, number 2, once Welker leaves, because he is leaving.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, especially your point on how quickly he can contribute. I mean, they've got Welker in the slot, but I don't know anyone that's banking on that this year, and certainly not beyond. They did sign Emmanuel Sanders, but I think, in a perfect world, I think they would let Welker move on, move Sanders inside, and let Latimer sort of be the new Eric Decker in that offense. And hey, Eric Decker did pretty good. So, and I think you could probably argue that Latimer, just in a vacuum by himself, is better than Eric Decker ever was. So, the big thing there is like you alluded to, it's the Peyton Manning bump and how long it's going to be there. Because, I don't know that there's very few other quarterbacks that you could step in and go, okay, he's going to throw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. You can't do it. And their long-term plans, I think, are a little sketchy, but I'm more high, I think, on his short-term potential than you are. I think he's going to contribute probably right away.
Yeah, so although the Peyton Manning bump exists, my short-term issue is the Peyton Manning leash also exists, where if you run one incorrect route or missed one incorrect assignment, he is dog-cussing you all the way back to the sideline, and you are not playing. It's how Brandon Stokely stayed in the league for 4 years longer than he should have. So that's my only issue there, is that if he misses and Peyton says, all right, I'm done here, then he's done there. So, but from all indications, that is not an issue at the moment, and they'll probably simplify it for him to where it won't be an issue going forward. And so you're right, maybe I'm a little bit lower short-term than I should be, but with that kind of situation, I have to see it first. So
sure. And hey, I mean, we're talking second round here, so most likely this is a guy that you don't necessarily need to start right away for your dynasty team. This is the sweet spot of where you get potential,
right.
Quite honestly. So
swing for the fences in the second round, people.
Yeah, why not? Why not? However, with that said, actually no, I'm going to go along the same lines. I would see, because now we're getting into other positions. So, oh man. No, screw it. I'll take Bridgewater.
Oh man, don't sound so sad about that.
I really shouldn't. I really like him. I really do. I think he's going to contribute right away. I think he's probably going to be a decent quarterback for the long term. Yeah, I really, and like you and I have discussed on several occasions, the probably biggest factor for me is one Norval Turner, who's going to be his offensive coordinator, at least this year. He's got Cordarrelle Patterson. He's got Adrian Peterson. He's got Kyle Rudolph. I mean, what am I missing here? And he's got Matt Castle that he has to beat out. Okay. Look, if he's not starting week 1, he's going to be starting full-time by mid-season. And I don't know. I don't know why other people aren't as high on him. I really don't.
So are you ready for hot sports take / real life event?
Oh, so you're going to be speaking real.
Real recognize real, son. So, okay. So Teddy Bridgewater will start from day 1, week 1 starter. I have a buddy flying into Vegas on the 16th, and I gave him a couple $100. The 2 bets I have to place right now are $100 on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win their division. And then the other one is the other $100 on Teddy Bridgewater as your offensive rookie of the year. The thing that separates Teddy Bridgewater from current NFL quarterbacks, hello Andy Dalton, and even quarterbacks that come in the league, is that guy has elite numbers facing pressure. When you bring 5 or more, 6 or more against the blitz, he is amazing. And he has weapons like Rudolph, Peterson, Patterson. I'll even throw Jennings in there, who isn't done by any means. Like, if you...
Now, whoa, that's a hot sports take.
Well, fair enough. You've seen him in the Old Spice commercials, dude. The dude's ripped. He's still got it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Old Spice, obviously. But you have that amount of firepower around you at all times. And the line isn't great. That's what you're missing. The offensive line is average at best. But with that being said, Louisville's offensive line was average at best with no NFL talent on it. He faced constant pressure and was able to constantly read what was being put at him and deliver the ball on time to a hot receiver accurately. His numbers against pressure, I don't have them in front of me because I'm an awful podcast person, but they were ridiculous. They were tops in the nation. And that's going to translate. And when you have Patterson one-on-one, Jennings one-on-one, Peterson on the wheel route one-on-one against a linebacker, and Rudolph one-on-one against a safety, because you're going to bring pressure at a rookie, man, he's going to tear you apart. And I think he's going to have a really good year. I think he's a solid quarterback, too. I mean, I don't think he's a QB1 right now. He could get there in the future, especially with Turner as the coach and the right coaching. He could easily get there. So I have no issue here. Again, in the second round, you're looking for potential, and you're looking for someone that maybe can blow up in the future. Bridgewater's the guy, man.
Yeah, everything you said. And look, I think one concern that people have that I think was valid going in was, they brought Turner in. He's definitely a more vertical guy, right? Like that's his offensive philosophy is vertical.
Sure.
You saw that last year with Cleveland and Josh Gordon. But the personnel is really not built for vertical. It's really built for underneath, right? And the short game, which is Bridgewater's specialty. I mean, they've got a guy like Rudolph. I view Patterson more dangerous as a guy catching it on the line of scrimmage and his yards after catch, right?
Okay.
They don't have a Deshaun Jackson to go out and just go deep. That's not what their offense is built around. Their offense is built around being efficient. And I think Bridgewater is certainly the top rookie for that, and I think probably top half of quarterbacks in the league for that.
So let's dispel a couple myths real quick about North Turner's offense. Well, for one, actually, Patterson ran faster at the combine than Deshaun Jackson. I think he might be faster, but neither here nor there. So they have a guy that can do it. But the thing about it is, Turner's offense is vertical in the sense that they want one guy or two guys going vertical constantly to open up underneath routes. If you look at Turner's offenses throughout the past and where he's been successful, his most successful receivers have always been underneath people. He was with the Cowboys. Alvin Harper was going deep so Michael Irvin and Jay Novacek could ball out. You go to the Chargers, and they had people going deep constantly so Antonio Gage and LaDainian Tomlinson could ball out in the middle of the field. Then you go to Cleveland, and Josh Gordon was awesome. But then you had people underneath, and Devon Best was supposed to be that guy, but he kind of had issues. But Jordan Cameron had the best year of his career because the middle of the field was open. They want someone to stretch the field to work the intermediate routes. So... And it's part of the reason I'm a little higher on Greg Jennings than most people, I think, because Patterson's going to get deep. He's just so unique that he's 6'2", 220, he can still run 4.2. But when he does get deep, even if they don't have the strength to get it there, Jennings and Rudolph especially are going to hit that underneath route, and that's what Turner loves. He loves the underneath stuff. So, So a little bit of a myth, you don't need to be, and Turner's adjusted as well. It used to do with Troy Aikman, he would have 52% completion because they told him just to bomb it. He's adapted as well. He knows the new NFL isn't just, the Joe Flacco type of offense anymore. So I think you'll see a lot more of that 10 to 20-yard intermediate stuff than you will bombs and Patterson and Jennings deep.
Yeah, that may be. Look, the bottom line is I think Bridgewater. You could argue whether he's more talented than the other two. You could argue he's the least talented of the other two rookie quarterbacks overall. But as far as being a quarterback and what you need right now, I think he's pretty good. So,
yeah.
All right, you're on the clock.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to take somebody, even though I hate the person. And that's mean. I shouldn't say hate, but I really don't. All right. So with my pick, I'll take Jace Amaro with the Jets.
There it is. There it is. I knew it was coming.
I mean, this isn't And the more I think about Jason Morrow, the more I'm thinking I don't like him. But this is about the right area he should go because of opportunity alone. He's going to play. He's going to play from day one. His blocking apparently is coming along better than I thought it would. His route running is still not great, but they have no other option. Jeff Cumberland ain't it at all.
Well, and he's going to be the inline guy anyway. So
man, the more I think about this Jets offense, the more I just think this could be a historically bad offense. Like, I don't know where anything comes from at all. But since it's a Dynasty league, you get away with Jason Morrow because he's extremely talented, big frame, good route running. He sort of reminds me of Vance McDonald from last year, only with a non-complicated offense that he came from. About the same size, same frame, same catching ability. It took a while for McDonald to adjust to the NFL. All accounts are he's adjusting a little bit. And it sounds like it's going to be the same thing with Amaro. The difference is Amaro doesn't have Vernon Davis in front of him, so he's going to play. And as long as he can see through this first year, because it's going to be rough, I think he'll be a good guy going forward. Solid tight end one over the next 5 to 10 years of your Dynasty league.
Yeah, I think his biggest attribute is the opportunity, like you said.
Yep.
He's literally already the second option in that offense. And if they didn't sign Eric Decker, he might have been the top guy. That's how I guess low on receiving threats they are there. But I'll tell you what, I was super high on him. I mean, I was considering him in the late first earlier this offseason. But I mean, and look, they all have growing pains, but it seemed like his were just way worse than others. And he was just too far away or further away than a lot of the other guys were at that same point. So, I get it. I understand it because you've already got a starter, right, for your team. But yeah, he scares me long term. He just does. And yeah, look, to your point, if you can get him mid-second, that's pretty good, especially in a PPR league. But anything higher than that, and I think I'd be nervous.
Agreed. Entirely agree. Yeah. I hope he does well, but that team, man, I just have no idea. Like, Rex Ryan has never been the one to foster offensive talent ever. And I just, ugh. So, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to pass up starting tight ends, and he's going to be one. So.
Yeah. Okay, so sort of on that same note of what I'll call potential, I'll take Allen Robinson here. I would have a problem.
Yeah, that's what I was going to take.
I wouldn't have a problem with that. I mean, look, you could even argue this was too late for him by what some people are saying. So with Robinson, he came out of Penn State. I believe led the nation in receiving yards and catches last year, which was quite the feat at old Penn State. Or no, he didn't lead. He was the Big Ten, I think, the leader of the Big Ten, or he led something. I know that much. But and it's kind of interesting. He got drafted by Jacksonville the same round as Marquise Lee did. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any doubt that Lee is going to be the more pro-ready guy. I mean, Robinson's only 20. That's the thing. He's 20 years old. So, if you draft Robinson this year in your Dynasty League, don't expect a lot, if anything. You really shouldn't. But, if you've got deep rosters or you've got a taxi squad and you're middle of the second round, I'm okay with a guy like that. I think, the reports on him are his potential far exceed the top-end potential of Marquise Lee, which I know you don't like hearing that, but that's what some people say, that in the long run, Robinson's going to be the better prospect there. And, I've mentioned before, I'm a fan of Bortles. I'm a Bortles believer, okay? So if you think he's going to be successful in a couple years, then guys like Robinson and Lee are going to take advantage of it. They're going to be the main beneficiary of it. So, for where we're drafting right now, I'm okay with a guy like that.
So the age is a big thing here. He is, I think he said, only 20. He's 21 during the season. He's going to be the stretch guy in that offense. He's a big physical guy who can run very fast. The hands are an issue, but not as big of a deal when you're feeding Marquise Lee constantly, and he's there to stretch the field. They don't have a lot of options in Jacksonville. Like, he's going to be stretching the field for Cecil Shorts and Mercedes Lewis. So, like you said, I don't know that there's a huge opportunity there. But Chad Henne, for all of his faults, he doesn't throw long at all, but he does have a huge arm. If he decides that that's the read and he wants to launch it, he can throw it 70 yards downfield. So there will be a chance to make plays, but he's a huge potential guy, and I like the Jacksonville coaching staff actually a little bit. And I think as far as potential, man, he's huge. He's right up there with Latimer for me. I just like the situation in Denver better. So I also tend to think Big Ten receivers. I mean, I maybe need to do a little research on this, but they're underdeveloped in college because the Big Ten is still so far behind modern offenses that I feel like once they learn in the NFL, all the talent they have actually gets realized. And that may be a stereotype on my end, but
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think probably pro scouts, I don't want to say look down on the guys in the Big Ten, but I think to your point, they definitely don't rate them as highly.
Yeah.
Right? For whatever reason, you know. So, but yeah. So anyway, so Robinson would be the pick there. And look, like I said, ideally he's a taxi guy. Like I would love it if I got him in the second and could just stash him away for a whole year and wait till next year. But
no, I entirely agree.
You then are on the clock.
Yeah, I know. So this is more of a recent thing, and this is also based on college production and also the fact that there's an opportunity now for this person to get 150, maybe 200 carries this year. And I kind of like the team he's on, too, which makes it easier to say this. But Andre Williams, running back for the New York Giants.
Interesting.
So he looked good in the Hall of Fame game. I think the issue was always with him was going to be breakaway speed. He's never going to be a breakaway guy. But I do consider him the anti-Trent Richardson, where he can stop and start pretty quickly. He's 5'11", 230, big guy, which fits the New York Giants style right now. They've been looking for someone between the tackles that can, break a tackle, but also make somebody miss for 5. It's one thing to break a tackle for 4 or 5 yards. It's another thing to make someone miss and then break a tackle for 7 or 8. And that's what Williams does. And they're going to have to use him with David Wilson retiring now. There's going to be, to me, he's a solid running back 2 on that team, which makes him a running back 3 in a Dynasty league. And he's one injury away from being the guy on a team where he can run the ball, he can block a little bit in pass pro, and he's also got decent hands. I don't know that he'll ever be a superstar, but the opportunity to grab a running back like him in this stage of the second round, for me, is too hard to pass up. I'm not going to take a flyer on a receiver or a tight end at this point. The tight end class, by the way, is kind of atrocious after the third. After Amaro, it's kind of awful. And
yeah, there's one guy. I may draft him later. We'll see.
And that's fine. I know what you're talking about, but that's a bit of at that point, I'd rather reach on a running back I know that's going to play versus reaching on a tight end that may play in the future. So that's my logic there.
And that's fair. And everything you said was true. So, and really, things are lining up for him, quite honestly. I mean, yeah, like you said, Wilson retired. Hillis got hurt. There's just no one past that. And look, Rashad Jennings isn't necessarily a young guy either. So,
9,
and I think if you're looking for what the Giants are trying to do, I think they really want to reinvent the Thunder and Lightning duo they had way back in the day with Tiki Barber and Ron Dane, right? Where you had Tiki Barber, who he was the more fluid guy. I mean, obviously he was outside the tackles, but they liked Ron Dane, who could just go up the middle and get the goal line carries. And quite honestly, Williams would be that guy. I think that's his comparison. So, like you said, he's never going to be a starter or a full-time starter for many years. But at the same time, if he carves out a little niche, then look, you're looking at maybe 10 touchdowns a year,
Oh, 800 to 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns in his best year, I don't think is out of the question. And the team, like if you read Graziano from ESPN and a bunch of the beat writers there, the team loves him. Like they love him. And if I'm not mistaken, the Jennings contract they can get out from after a year. And so if they can get a workhorse back, which they think he might be on his rookie contract, if he proves out to be what he is, you could have a Ben Tate situation where he is a starter by default, and he gets carries and may do like 4 to 4.3 yards a carry, and just sort of grind out running back 2 type stacks.
Right. No, I think yeah, even if they kept Jennings, I think that might be good for him at least for the first year or two, right? I mean, sort of gives him some cover. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with any of that. I don't think so. All right, I am gonna go receiver again.
Jeez, man.
Would you care to guess who?
No, because our view on receivers is so different.
Well, then that makes it even more fun. Go ahead and guess.
Well, I will say Dante Moncrief.
Yes.
Is it? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you're not insane.
So we agree. So we agree on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So Dante Moncrief. Yeah. Do I think he's going to be as talented as any of the guys ahead of him? No. But do I think his situation rivals a lot of those guys? Yes. I think he's in a very good situation in Indianapolis. I mean, right now, he's a fourth stringer. He's behind Wayne. He's behind Hilton. He's behind Nix. But, you know, since we're talking Dynasty, you have to look at the situation, right? So I don't know how much longer Reggie Wayne has, unless he just defies, like, you know, science. He's probably done after this year or the next at the latest. Nix, I'm actually high on Nix this year, but look, what all that means is if he has a great season, he's not sticking around in Indy because they're not going to break the bank for him. And on the flip side, if he tanks it, it's not like they're going to want to bring him back there either. So, you know, and Jeremy Maclin of Philadelphia is the same way. They did these prove-it deals because they have no intention of coming back, quite honestly. So I think that opens the door a little bit for a guy like Moncrief, who, look, you've got Andrew Luck. You don't have to worry about your quarterback situation for the next 15 years. All indications are they finally realize that, hey, maybe they should get the ball in the best player's hands here, which would be Luck and his receivers. So, you know, I think things are lining up for Moncrief. He's another guy like Robinson for me where in a perfect world you'd stash him and wait until next year. But even if you know, took him in the second and had to carry him, I think I would be okay with that.
Okay. No, I agree with you. This is a straight physical upside pick. The thing about Nix, like, I want to be high on him, but all the reports out of camp are so conflicting. I mean, it's just
as has been his entire career.
Yeah, man. Like, I just don't know what to do with him as an owner. I have no idea. Like, he just scares me. I don't want to sell low on him, but I can't start him. I don't know. But you're right about the Knicks situation. If he starts there and does great, well, all right, Moncrief sits, but he's gone after a year anyway. And if he sucks, they're going to play Moncrief. Cause, I mean, they played Derrick Rogers last year because they had to, for Christ's sake. Like, that wasn't even a guy they valued, and they just threw him out there. So Reggie Wayne, we'll see. I personally don't see how a guy his age comes back from that injury. He might, but I don't really see it. I think you'll see a more Andrew Luck-centric offense, which it should be. And I think T.Y. Hilton is actually the number one receiver this year in fantasy, to be honest. I think he's going to explode.
Wow.
But outside of him...
That's another hot sports take.
Well, okay, so we have a year worth of chemistry built between those two and those two only. Out of all, so Nix wasn't there, Reggie Wayne essentially wasn't there, Dwayne Allen wasn't there. So it was T.Y. Hilton, Kobe Fleener, who sucks, and a bunch of guys. So the only guy with a ton of talent that was there for an entire year with Andrew Luck was T.Y. Hilton. And now you're bringing in at least a little bit of talent to open it up for T.Y. I think he could have a big, big year. But there's an opportunity there for Moncrief to step in from day one, provide a role in this team, have 50 to 60 catches, 600 to 800 yards maybe, and you know there's a high ceiling there and a low floor too. So because he drove people insane at Mississippi, man. But
yeah, but hey, that's why he's a second round pick in this dynasty draft.
So. Yeah, and that's why he was a third rounder in real life too. So that's just part of it. But if the hands thing worked out, he's got all the physical ability in the world. So
yeah, I would agree with that.
Fun to watch too.
All right, you're up.
All right. So I'll save him for later because you're not taking that guy.
I might.
Yeah, you don't know. So another personal favorite of mine that I'm going to take, and it's mainly because I have zero belief whatsoever in the guy in front of him. I would, in the second round, you can start looking at a guy like Trey Mason from St. Louis. And that's what I would take. I have zero faith. Like, Zach Stacy is fine. He's a fine running back. He's perfectly acceptable as a running back. But Trey Mason is special, and he reminds me a bit of Gio Bernard last year. Not quite as prolific out of the backfield, but it's only because I don't think he's had a chance to do that. I think watching him last year in the SEC and Auburn in that offense, he's great getting out to the edges, and this team will be good getting out to the edges and getting to the outside, especially with those tackles and that offensive line. And they have wide receivers now that can block. Like Kenny Britt, everyone makes fun of Kenny Britt, and he may be a shitty receiver, which he probably is, but he can block downfield. He can create a lane for running backs. And Zach Stacy, quite honestly, is not quick and fast enough to get to the outside lanes like Trey Mason. And I think this offense has suffered for years from being too horizontal. Way too horizontal. Not enough downfield, no explosiveness in their offense. And Trey Mason is going to provide that. And I think the second he does, it's going to be hard to keep him off the field. The other thing is, man, with Zach Stacy, I know he was there last year and he did well I think for the majority of the year, except for in the last 2 or 3 games, he was averaging under 4 yards a carry. He only had such a good year because they just had no other option. So, and I don't think that happens this year. Last year was a unique situation. By the way, side note, sell high on Zach Stacy if you can. But and that's independent of Trey Mason. Trey Mason may suck. I don't know for sure. But Zach Stacy is not going to be a running back 1 or 2 in the future. So. But if my belief is true about Zach Stacy, then Trey Mason is someone you can get on early, and he'll get 150 to 175 carries, and I think you'll see some big plays out of him. Maybe not so much in the NFC West games, but in the rest of the schedule, he'll have a chance to really exploit some bad linebackers.
Yeah, I could see that, and I think you're pretty spot on about Stacy. I mean, he was a volume guy last year. That's what he was. He didn't have the explosiveness. It's just like you said, they had no one else. And given he's an adequate guy, I think he could be a starter for a couple years, but is he going to be a guy that 5 years from now he's still a running back 1? Probably not. And like you said, you're going more for upside when you're drafting in the second round. So, and a guy like Mason, yeah, universally they don't doubt that he is capable. It's just a matter of, hey, can he do all the little things to keep him in the game, right? So yeah, I'm okay with that.
Also, size is an issue. I don't think he'll ever be a guy like the guy. But the more the NFL gets towards spread offenses, and the more they stretch all 53 yards of the field, the more lanes and the more opportunity you're going to see for guys like Trey Mason, who are 5'8", 210, aren't the biggest but compact and strong. They're going to have a chance to impact a game day in, day out. And if they get the right matchups, like it used to be back in the 80s, you'd have what are called matchup busters, essentially, but they were only used 4 plays a game. They'd be like, oh, we have a matchup. We'll just spring it on them every once in a while. Now matchup busters are essentially, we are going to do this until you stop it. And you may stop it once, and we'll go away from it for a second, and then we'll go back to it again. And that's kind of the evolution of football now, and you're seeing Trey Mason, a person like him anyway, sort of fit into that.
Yeah, I think, yeah. And I think this is probably about right for him to be drafted, quite honestly. I think there's just more players ahead of him that it wouldn't warrant him taking him right now, but I think about there's probably fine. So on that same note, as far as running backs and people ahead of them, I'd probably take Terrence West here from Cleveland. Sort of the same, you could probably say the same thing for West and Tate that you just said for Stacy and Mason, meaning, it's very doubtful that the starter now, Ben Tate, lasts, quite honestly, or is the long-term solution by any means. Terrence West, he's very good at, especially the one cut, and that's sort of why he's getting all this hype is they've got Kyle Shanahan now as offensive coordinator. His bread and butter is that one cut offense, the zone blocking. And by all accounts, West is an ideal candidate for that. I mean, they compared him in every way to Alfred Morris, and that worked out pretty well. So, at this point, I would go West because, look, it's possible he starts this year. with the fragility of Ben Tate in front of him, it's entirely possible West gets some action pretty early. I mean, even if West isn't starting, he's going to see a lot of time. He's just going to see a lot of carries. So, yeah, I would be thrilled if I got a guy like that this late.
So, I mostly agree with you. He's a bit older. He's 23. But I think in an ideal world, he gets 8 to 10 carries a game. I don't think they'll ever be up enough to actually realize that kind of situation. Now, with that being said, again, the Ben Tate contract, they can cut him after 1 year and have almost no hit whatsoever. So if they think Terrence West is the guy, they can roll him in year 2. And he's big enough. He's 5'10", 225, 230. He's big enough to handle a workload for an entire year. So you're buying into a huge upside for next year if he proves on the field that he can handle what they want him to handle. I would be wary of the idea that he's going to get work in the first year just because, like I said, with this Cleveland team, man, let's imagine their best case scenario. Is that still 7-9, 8-8, where they're sort of winning random fluky games at home and getting blown out on the road kind of thing? So, but with Josh Gordon out for at least what's going to be, I imagine, 8 to 10 games, if not the full year, depending on how his appeal goes, and no real other people to pass to, it's sort of which side of the sword do you want to get cut with? And they may just decide to get cut with the running game constantly over and over again. So I don't mind it. And out of all the running backs that we talked about in the second round, I think he has the highest variation, to be honest. I know he's getting a ton of talk in preseason, and the coaches love him, etc. But I just think Ben Tate, he's the only one who's facing a free agent signing that is unilaterally better than he is at this exact moment.
Sure. I get that. And yeah, it's entirely contingent on Tate and how long he actually lasts. So.
Yeah.
All right, you're up with your last pick.
It is my last pick, and, well, I would like to take Jarvis Landry. Maybe you do, because he's somebody that I think you need to know about. He's been getting rave reviews in camp, catching everything in sight. Not the fastest guy in the world, but incredibly quick with good hands. Not going to take him. John Brown, another guy to Arizona, the Cardinals, who's getting a huge run right now. Tight ends all suck. So we're going to go with, and this is the ultimate upside, and we've talked about this. There's no way around it. He's either going to be a top 5 guy in 3 years, or he might be out of the league by the end of the year. But if you are in need of a quarterback...
Oh, my God. Are you kidding me?
Yes. So, look.
That was my pick.
So I'd go with Johnny Football. So, Johnny Manziel at the end of the second...
Wait, that wasn't my pick.
That wasn't your pick? All right, so you can take Bortles then. That's fine.
Yeah, okay.
No, I think Bortles will be a backup for years to come, just because he's like, there are stereotypes in sports, whether they be racial, whether they be physical, whatever. But Blake Bortles looks like a quarterback, therefore he's going to be in the league forever. It's just he's 6'5", 230. He's got a good arm. He'll be around for a while. Like Blaine Gabbert is currently, we're watching the Niners-Ravens game preseason, and he currently has a 0.0 quarterback rating in a preseason game. He's still in the league for a reason. But I think if you're talking about the potential of a quarterback to either dominate this league through his quirky, like his quirkiness of whatever his style ends up being, like he's the one guy who can do that. Teddy Bridgewater is going to come in and be very good from day one. He may not have a huge ceiling, but he's going to be solid, not spectacular. Blake Bortles, his ceiling is maybe Ben Roethlisberger, who is a very good quarterback, but in fantasy has never really blown the doors off of everyone, has been a low-end quarterback one. Johnny Manziel has the potential to be a 3-inch taller version of Russell Wilson. And a 3-inch taller version of Russell Wilson is a guy that I think could dominate the league. Just absolutely dominate the league. I don't know that he ever gets there. I have no clue. Your guess is as best as mine. But if Bridgewater's already off the board, and you kind of need a quarterback to stash for the future, like let's say you're a team, and you're kind of this way actually, your team in our league is sort of set across the board, but you are starting to that point where you need to find a quarterback. And you need to have an answer to that within the next year or two at most. This is the guy, if I were you, that I would roll the dice on if Bridgewater's already gone, because it's essentially a free lottery ticket. And it's a lottery ticket that's going to get the chance to play, I think, early on, because I don't think Brian Hoyer's any good. I think he's just like, the people in Cleveland love him because he's just a rah-rah guy who shows up and works hard for the team, plays for him, and that's awesome, but he kind of sucks. So when it comes down to it, when they're in the business of winning football games, Johnny Football is going to be the, and I hate saying that name, but Johnny Manziel is going to be the one to give them a chance to do that, and the team will get behind him once he starts doing things in the field. So it sounds dirty to even say his name in the second round, but I would have no problem rolling the dice on him. And look, I drafted Geno Smith last year in the 5th round because he was a quarterback. Ended up trading him for, I think, a 3rd rounder because people go crazy for quarterbacks. So if you want to sell early on them too, you can do that too.
Yeah. Wow, that stunned me.
Really?
Yeah. I'm out on the Manziel bandwagon, man. I mean, we've talked about this. We've had a complete, I think, role reversal, but yeah, I'm out. Like, he scares me. And it's not, I was hopeful. The Gordon thing really, I think, was the clincher for me, quite honestly. I think if he would have had Gordon, especially his rookie year, he would have had a shot, right? Because he would have done the same thing he did with Mike Evans at A&M, right? Just throw it up and I'll catch it. So, yeah, he scares me, man. He just scares me. Don't get me wrong, it's fun. It's gonna be good times, but I don't know.
Look, he should scare the shit out of you. Like, I'm not denying that, but it's like, look, if he was, I don't know, man. I mean, it's dumb to say if he was 2 inches taller, he'd be the first pick, because if he was 2 inches taller, I mean, he's not. But his style of football is something that you gamble on in real life and in fantasy because the ceiling is so high. Even if throwing he's not great, people need to understand that 40 yards a game rushing is worth the same as 100 yards throwing. It's the reason, like Kaepernick or someone like him, even though he doesn't throw the ball hardly at all, is worth a top 5, top 7 quarterback spot because he gets 40 to 50 yards a game and is always going to get that. So even at his absolute average with Manziel, I still think you're looking at a low-end quarterback 1, high-end quarterback 2. So, and they're going to commit resources to him because the owner's dumb and doesn't know better, and the coach is a brand-new coach who's going to do what the owner says. So, and Josh Gordon will come back, man. It's a dynasty league. Like, Josh Gordon is going to come back and play football. And he's got what I think is an all-pro tight end. He has one of the, if not the best offensive lines in football. So there are things that will make a rookie quarterback very comfortable in that offense. So
yeah, and I can see that, especially this late in the draft. I can't imagine him lasting this long in actual dynasty drafts, quite honestly. But I think we could agree we wouldn't take him before this, right?
Before, I say that again?
You wouldn't take Manziel before you just did now.
No, he's strictly an end of the second guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a snake draft, this is a team that is traditionally end of the second round in the snake draft is a team that was one of the top picks in the draft. So they've already had one pick that they can have their star, basically, which they should get. And this is where you can gamble with as much as you want to gamble with. Sort of diversify your draft picks a little bit. Take someone that is going to be a high-risk, high-reward guy. So, like, for example, if you're Manziel, which we took in the second to last pick in the second round, that would have been the second pick in the first round. So, whoever your second pick in the first round is, whether it be, depending on how your league's set up, whether it's Watkins, Ebron, Cooks, Evans, whatever, you've got your stud. So, don't be afraid to go back to take somebody that's a huge risk.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. All right, so I'll just round things out and take Bortles here. I think a lot of the same things you just said about, potential and down the road, I think you could get away with here. I mean, look, he's the epitome of a guy you stash because they don't plan on playing him this year. Now, whether that is reality, I don't know. I mean, if they reel off like 5 losses in a row, you might change your mind on that one. But I don't know. I think there's too much potential there to do away with. I mean, it's not going to happen early, but I think it could happen. Like I said before, I'm a believer. I think, and all the reports so far, that he looks really good. So If I'm picking at the end of the second, and especially if I need a quarterback, like you had mentioned, like I do in one of my leagues, yeah, I would be all over this, and I would stash him, and I probably wouldn't even think about him for a year. So
I think most Jacksonville fans are feeling that same way too.
there you go. 2014, they're gonna write off. So
I mean, look, man, you sound about excited about Bortles as I did about the Dalton contract. So, I mean, he's already.
Look, I'm excited. It's just, it's definitely not one of those picks that you're going to see a return on. I mean, it was no different than anyone who took Marcus Lattimore last year. It was like, well, he's there. I got to take him, even though like I'm not going to use him for a year.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, it's not a sexy pick. He's taken exactly 0 first-team snaps in practice so far. So if you've taken 0 first-team snaps so far in practice, you're not playing. And they've been steadfast in that the entire time. They've said he's not playing. It seems like they're sticking to that. So, other than the fact that he has the prototypical size and body and he seems like a good leader, I don't know. And a lot of it is ignorance because I didn't watch a lot of UCF games. Like, I don't know what else there is to be really excited about with him. He seems like a decent athlete. He can get out of the pocket a little bit, but more in the Jake Plummer style where he can roll out and get on the edge kind of thing than he is someone that will create something down the field with his legs. But I do have high hopes for that offense. I think the skill positions they drafted this year were very good. And if they can find a running back and a tight end to round out that offense, maybe going into year 2, that's an offense you could look at with an arrow pointing up. And at the end of the second, man, he's the 3rd quarterback off the board. Again, after Blake Bortles, there's kind of not a whole lot of quarterback unless you're looking at the Tom Savages and Carrs of the world in Oakland and the Texans, who aren't going to start at all, by the way. So if you're in need of a quarterback and the first 2 have already been taken and then the second, you can reach a little bit for a guy like Bortles knowing he's going to sit for a year.
Yeah, I think so. So
you want to hear a fun quirk about the NFL, by the way?
Always.
Blaine Gabbert, I hate to keep saying about Blaine Gabbert, but he was at a 0.0 quarterback rating. The next through was an incompletion, and it rose to 1.7.
That's good.
I mean,
that probably means he got it close, right?
I would hope. Within 1.7 yards of the receiver, yes.
Yeah, so you're good.
Had to be.
You're good.
So.
Very good. Well, that concludes the second round of this Dynasty rookie mock draft. I think we'll probably leave it at there for now. Any other thoughts, Jonathan, before most folks conduct their rookie Dynasty drafts this weekend, including you and me?
Including us, which I will not be attending because I'll be in a wedding in Louisiana for people that I don't know. No,
yeah,
so I mean
they're shaking their head. So
it's odd. Listen, whatever. Not really. Understand that the most important thing here, I think, for anyone is to look at your team. This isn't like a redraft where you sort of play the draft board and see what falls to you. Look at your team, identify needs, identify things you want to get done in this draft. And they can happen wherever they need to happen. So let the board fall to you a little bit, but if you are in need of a spot somewhere and you can identify that need with that pick and it's not a reach, feel comfortable in doing that. And that's the way it should be because you're going to have the ability to stash people for a year. You're going to have the ability to play them a year or 2 down the road. So don't freak out if you don't get one of the top 3 quarterbacks. Don't freak out if you don't get one of the top 5 receivers. It's okay. Just sort of identify what you want to get done, get it done, and move on.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I mean, that is really the difference between a standard fantasy redraft league and a dynasty league. You're really, I think the people that do dynasty are more hardcore, and they view themselves as an actual general manager. I mean, that's why I do it because I played Madden for a lot of years as the general manager instead of actually playing. So, so look for your weaknesses and look where you can shore up some talent and just have fun. That's the ultimate goal. So.
Shit talk. All the shit talk in the world.
That's true, too. Because then if you win, then, they can't say anything.
Yeah, it's the one day in the year where it's acceptable. If you shit talk and win, then you're the king of the hill. If you do it and don't win, nobody's even going to remember.
Unless you just become that guy. So.
Yeah, but I think most people know they're that guy. Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Anyway, all right, so you can check us out on DynastyFantasyFootballCentral.com. You can always tweet us at Dynasty_FFC. Jonathan, any last words?
Man, do you want to crowdsource really quick the trade that we did this weekend?
We could do that on Twitter probably tomorrow because it's Friday and everybody's working for the weekend. So
Check it out, people. Saturday, get hammered and send us awful things about our trade.
I'm telling you, it's going to be a winner. Anyway, until next time.